Hi class, today we're looking at Chapter 8, Lesson 5, Solving Equations with Variables on Both Sides. What you will learn today is how to solve equations with variables on both sides of an equal sign. So to solve, step number 1, collect variable terms on one side and then constant terms on the other. Use the opposite operation, the inverse operation, to change the sides, and then of course solve. Now, in example 1, letter A, we are going to solve and check our solutions. 17 minus 3c equals 4c plus 3. So my first step is to add 3c to each side. And the reason why I want to add is so I end up with positive values. So 17 equals 7c plus 3, because 4 plus 3 is 7. Then my next step, I'm going to now put my constants together. So I'm going to subtract the 3 to make sure that my equation is still balanced on both sides. Variables are now on the right, and I'm moving my constants to the left. So 17 minus 3, I'm left with 14 equals 7c. And then my last step is to divide each side by 7. And my final solution is 2 equals c, or c equals 2. But now let's check our solution. So in this case, I'm going to substitute in 2 for c, so 3 times 2 equals 4 times 2 plus 3. So now I have 17 minus 6 equals 8 plus 3. 17 minus 6 is 11, 8 plus 3 is also 11. So our solution checks out, and C really is 2. Now let's look at example B. We have 7x plus 8 equals 8 minus 2. So again, I want to make sure that I end up with positive integers. So I'm going to actually move the 2x. I'm adding 2x to each side, and I'm left with 9x plus 8 equals 8. Then in my next step, I'm going to isolate the constant, so I'll subtract this 8 from this 8. And I'm left over with 9x equals 8 minus 8 is 0. So now what I'm going to do is divide each side by 9, and I realize that 0 divided by 9 actually gives me 0. So x equals 0. But we need to check our solution to make sure we are correct. So now what I'm going to do is substitute my value back into the original equation. So I'm going to go 7 times 0 plus 8 equals 8 minus 2 times 0. So now 7 times 0 is 0. 0 plus 8 equals 8 minus 2 times 0 is 0. So 0 plus 8 is 8. 8 minus 0 is also 8. So our solution checks out. So x really is equal to 0. Now, in example C, I have negative 5n plus 8 equals 8 minus 3n minus 2n. So in this problem, this time, I'm going to combine like terms. So I have negative 5n plus 8 equals 8 minus 5n. Because negative 3n and minus 2n is negative 5n. So I want to make sure that my like terms are already combined. Now my next step is to move the variable. Well, in this case, since both the 5's are negative, it doesn't matter which one I'm going to move, but I'll move this one to the left. And it just so happens that negative 5n is 0, but so is negative 5n plus 5n as well. So if they're both 0, that means they both cancel out. And I'm left with just this answer of 8 equals 8. This means that there is no clear answer to what n equals, and we therefore call this infinite solutions. Meaning that you can substitute any value in for the letter n and it will still be correct. So I can use 0, I can use -4, I can use 100, and it will always make my answer true. So we also like to call this all real numbers. So any number that fits in the real number system, like rational numbers, fractions, decimals, negatives, positives, they all would make the solution true. So if I pick a number, I just pick the number 1, and my answer will still be the same on both sides. So now -5 plus 8, then I'm left with 8 minus 3 minus 2. So -5 plus 8, and I end up with +3. 8 minus 3 is 5. 5 minus 2 is 3. So I just chose randomly the number 1, and no matter what, my answer will always be true. So that's why we don't have an exact answer. It's just called infinite solutions. Now, in letter D, something else is going to occur here. First, we're going to combine like terms. So we're going to combine the n and the -5n. And I'm left with -4n. -1 equals -4n minus 3. So now in this case, I still have those negatives again. So I'm just going to move the 4n to each side. And I notice that each answer is going to cancel out again. So they're gone. And now I'm left with this answer of -1 equals -3, because those are the two numbers left over. Now, that's not true. -1 is not -3. And since they are two different numbers, we actually call this no solution. So that means there's no answer that will ever make this true. You could pick any number, and the answer will always be incorrect. So there is no answer to this type of question whenever you have the two different values that are not the same or equal to each other. Go ahead and turn your paper over to the back side now. Alright, in example 2, a personal trainer charges a one-time fee of $60 plus $25 for each individual session. A fitness club charges a yearly fee of $450 plus $10 for each session with a personal trainer. Write and solve an equation to determine for what number of sessions the cost will be equal. So let's look at our key information here. Our key information, we notice the $60 plus $25 for each session, individual session. But then we also notice that we have the value of the $450 yearly fee plus $10 each session. So when we're writing our equation, we know that we want the 60 plus the 25x equals 450 plus 10x. And we know that this is the personal trainer. The 60 plus 25x is for the personal trainer. Then for the fitness club, it's 450 plus 10x. And x represents the number of sessions that we are looking for. So our first step is to subtract from each side our coefficients. So in this case, I'm going to subtract the 10 because I want to make sure I end up with positive values. So now I have 60 equals 60 plus 15x, because 25 minus 10x is 15x, equals 450. And these 10x's cancel out. Now I end up with a new equation, and I'm going to subtract this time the 60 from the 450. So I have 15x equals 390. The last part, I'm going to divide each side by 15, and then x would equal 26. So 26 ends up being the number of sessions when they become equal to each other. So at that point, having a personal trainer, then also doing the fitness club, they are now equal once you pay for 26 sessions. Now for example 3, we had Redbird Cruises charge $85 per day plus a one-time fee of $75. King Cruises charges $100 per day plus a fee of $30. Write and solve an equation to determine for what number of days the charge for the cruises will be the same. So now in this case, we have $85 plus the one-time fee of $75. Now that would be the Redbird cruise. So we have 85 per day, which is X, plus the one-time fee of $75 equals the King Cruises $100 per day plus a fee of $30. So then that would be 100x plus 30. Now when we go to solve, we can start by solving the coefficients first. So I'm going to subtract the 85x. And again, the reason why I'm subtracting the 85x is so I end up with positive values. So now I'm left over with 75 because the 85x's cancel out, equals 100 minus 85, which is 15x, plus 30. Then the next step is to isolate the constant. So I'm going to subtract 30 from each side, and I'm left over with 45, 75 minus 30 equals 15x. Then I divide each side by 15, and I end up with 3 equals x. And the 3 represents the number of days they charge for the cruise will be the same. So x would equal 3 days when they will be the same price. Now go ahead and practice these 6 problems. Problems 1 through 5, solve each equation and then check your solution. And then for number 6, don't forget to write an equation and then solve it.